Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you all to a very special edition of the Black Men Wellness Lounge. As you might have seen with a previous video, we are collaborating this week with Black and Mental Health, and they've essentially become my Twitter family, in this space. And I'm so excited that we were able to collaborate for this. And so we had one conversation previously where we talked about toxic masculinity. And so today I have an amazing panel of individuals coming to talk about intersections. And so when we're talking about intersections, we're talking about for so often, so long, us as a part of the diaspora, we were fit into, one box wherever it was. We were, considered slaves. We were considered three-fifths of a person. And then now it's just generally it's just like, black people, the blacks, all that kind of stuff. And so at this point, we already know within our community, there is much more to us than that. There are other identities that we all own and share that are a part of us that we love and creates this puzzle, which is each of us individually. And so today I have a panel of individuals willing to come on and share about their intersections and talk about what this means for their mental health, the work that they do, and I am so excited to have them as a part of this conversation. And look at this beautiful panel. And so hey everyone, it's so great to have you all on. I'm super excited to get this conversation rolling. And so, Syreeta, I want to give you the honor of kicking us off with your introduction. Anything that you would like to share about yourself to the lounge.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for having us all in this space. So, once again, my name is Syreeta Nolan. I am so proud to identify as Black, as a woman, as a disabled woman, and as bisexual. And I found one thing that Brandon said in our introduction so great about being seen as slaves. And many of us who are Black and disabled carry that along with us, where the strength of who we are as Black people become juxtaposed against the weakness seen as disability and the internalized ableism we have as a community. And just being able to hold this space as a disability advocate to begin to release some of those burdens of what disability means and to allow yourself to finally know what disability truly is in its scope and its nature, and just to heal and be yourself, whatever that is, in your mental or physical disabilities. So that'd be me.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Abigail, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh my goodness. I am just like so honored to be here and so thankful to be with community and the collective. Yes, my pronouns are she and her, they and them. I am a Black trans woman and I happen to be a therapist. So I'm so excited to just take up space. Me being here, I want to show the community a different narrative, shifting the ideas or perceptions one may have of a Black transgender woman and showing you that we are here, we are therapists, we are you. And so I just want to take up some space with love and gentleness. And I'm just so excited to get in and see what we're going to do this evening.
Listen, I'm gonna put y'all on every video just to hype it up, like just to do the hype part. Like that's that's what I need. The love is so, you can already feel it. It's so strong here, and I appreciate you all being here. Mani-Jade, you're not new to the Black Mental Wellness Lounge, but if you could introduce yourself, we may have some new viewers. So if you can introduce yourself to the lounge.
Sure. I'm Mani-Jade Garcia, and I identify as Black, Indigenous, Latinx, two-spirit, disabled person. And I just learned, my pronouns are they and them. I just learned from Syreeta right before we started recording that there are disability pronouns. I had no idea. And so I'm really excited. And I'm mostly excited because I've been following the three of you separately, and now I have you all in one place. So for me, this is a big old party because these are you three are some of my favorite people. Really.
I love that, and I share that with you all as well. I'm excited. So to kick into the conversation, Mani-Jade, I know you wanted to get into. So we recorded a video prior to this, and again, if you haven't seen it, go see it. But we recorded a video prior to this and had a conversation. And we've gotten to some conversation around names. Like as we were doing this, we had an experience with names that, and again, as we talk about identities here, I definitely wanted to give you an opportunity to share about that, and for us to take a couple of minutes to unpack that. Are you good with that?
Yes. So I'm 48 years old, and it was just last November, when I was 47, that I came out as Two-Spirit, and that I fully realized that was my identity, and that I had a very strong. So people have always known me as Manny, and so who's Jade? Okay, well, Jade is the other spirit, right? So people are very familiar with one of the spirits, or energies in me, and they're very present. They're very vocal, both of them. However, because of the way I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. There was no way in hell that Jade could exist. There was no way in hell. So
Yeah.
Jade hid away, and I moved into a home with all Black queer artists temporarily, sublet, and I happened to also, it coincided with me being with this amazing partner, Angelina, and there was one night where we were just like trying to pick a journal up and read something. So she started reading me something. And the only thing I could find was this story I had where I had written about my life, and I had written it as parts of it were Manny and parts of it were Jade. To me, that always made sense, but I didn't make much of it. And so when I read this to her, she asked the right questions, and Jade just came sauntering out and really wanted to talk to Angelina and felt comfortable. So eventually I changed my name. I was using he, they pronouns for a while, but that became less natural. So I just started using they, them. The reason I'm telling everyone this is because this is the place to say it, first of all, but second of all, because I had relationships with people who knew me as Manny, a person who was cisgender, and then Manny Jade using he they pronouns. I think it was just Manny and then Mani-Jade, and I came out at a clinical supervision meeting like 1 minute before the meeting was over. By the way, I'm queer. Bye. And then people, what happened last time with you, Brandon, is like I have nothing but love for Brandon. Brandon's a very beautiful soul. However, Brandon is not used to, like many people, saying Mani-Jade. And so Brandon kept saying Manny, and then after we finished recording, felt bad. And I've received lots of emails like that and lots of communication from people feeling bad. And I'm not speaking for everyone. I could never do that. And it's a mistake to think everyone could do that. However, for me, I understand that there's a period of learning for people to adjust to just the logistical part of, there's no emotional resistance. I don't feel any emotional resistance from the people in my life. I was careful who I chose to be in my life. So, there was a guaranteed acceptance when I was able to be who I am, because I'm very careful, because I won't be around people who reject trans people or reject disabled people. I have nothing to do with them. So, so I knew I would be safe. I didn't realize how safe I would be because I hadn't experienced it yet. But I want to address it because I realized that I really don't have guidance on that kind of thing. I've never heard anybody talk about the period of time where you're switching from one identity to another. I feel often like an imposter. I don't know what to say. Like, I learned that there were disability pronouns today. I don't know how to use those correctly. And then I think about my friends and the people I love and how they feel and how they're really trying to do the right thing. However, we're human, you know, like you've known me for a very long time in a certain way.
Right.
And so it's my way to extend to you, Brandon, you know, like nothing but love and understanding as we make the transition together. I call myself Manny and he sometimes too. You know, it's like, you know, for some people who suffered a lot throughout their life and been attacked, there might be more of a really serious request to please use my pronouns, please use them in shows, because I suffered and I bled for this. However, I've presented it as a big 6 foot tall Black dude my whole life. People are kind of afraid of pissing me off. So for better or for worse, you know, so I haven't suffered as much for my identity in the ways that other people have. I've suffered for sure. And I thought it would be interesting to talk about it here, like instead of talking about it privately and address it. And I also was curious if other people had insight, some of the other people here on it. So thank you for making space for it.
Of course.
And I also wanted to pop in and say, Mani-Jade, your spirit is just beautiful. And never believe that you're an imposter. You are never an imposter within the disability community, LGBTQ identity. We are all growing in who we are, and we are growing in the space that we take. And it took me a while before I really became comfortable with my own disability pronouns, which are neurodivergent, visibly disabled, and a disabled woman. Because as a disabled woman, it is the same as me as a Black woman. I will never call myself a woman with disabilities nor a woman with Blackness. Like, I'm not going to put it down. I can't separate it. I don't leave it behind at home sometimes.
Right.
Can't separate my personhood from who I am as a Black person, as a disabled person. And I found a place where I'm really proud of who I am, every bit of growth that I'm taking in these identities. Because being Black and a woman, I wasn't diagnosed with my ADHD until I was 34, which was last year. I was gatekept from my diagnosis of autism this year because my mom wasn't objective enough. And really, what I find is that we take our experiences and we allow them to grow who we are and who we want to be in our careers. And my goal is really to transform the mental health field through comprehensive preventative strategies like we have in any other health area. Like, think about your vision. You can go get a vision exam every year. Think about your teeth. You can get a dental exam every year. For your physical health, you can go get like a physical exam every year.
Mhm.
But when you look at mental health, there is this gaping hole of nothing that's there
Right.
preventatively. And I really think that if we did preventatively focus on mental health, that we'd be in a much better place. Like being bisexual and Christian, it was rough. It was hard. It still
Yeah.
is hard in spaces. It's almost like if I go into a Christian space, it feels like I need to hide that. And it doesn't feel good to need to hide something that I'm so proud of about who I am, and to be a part of a community that has also been toxic to LGBTQ communities in the past as well. It's like differences from one congregation to another, whether they're LGBTQ accepting or rejecting. And it is this identity that clashes within me that I still am growing within and trying to find how to be a Christian and how to really be comfortable in who I am being bisexual as well. So we're all growing. We're all on our separate journeys, and embrace the journey, Mani-Jade. And I love the name Jade selfishly because one of my nonprofits is named Jade, which stands for Justice, Advocacy, and Disability Education.
Look
So,
at that.
yeah.
Perfect. We were meant to be on this panel together.
Yes,
Obviously.
exactly. Like, I love you, Mani-Jade. And I've admired you on Twitter for a while as well.
Thank you. That means so much. Thank you.
Yes, and I just want to chime in too, like imposter to your own experience. Where, I mean, it is your experience. No one will do it like you can, right? There is not a book. There is not, I don't know, an imaginary cassette tape that plays in the background. It's all about you. And even when you begin to formulate your identities and begin to live in your identity, we may all have some connection to the identities, but it's truly our own experiences. Like I look at trans women, like Yeah, we're trans women, right? But we have a different experience, right? I don't share the same narratives that my sister may share, and that's okay. You know why?
Right.
Because I was a spirit that came to this place. I came to this place. I had an assignment, and the assignment was to be me. Whatever that is, whatever the intention is, whatever the challenge is, I'm going to be me. And that's the thing about mental health that I love being in, is I love sitting with my clients and telling them, envision yourself the way you want to be. What is mental health? What is a diagnosis?
Mhm.
What is your experience? What is your trauma? What is your healing? Guess what? You are the center of all. You get to determine that, not I. I'm just here being along beside you on your journey. So, in saying that, imposter where?
You're gonna make me cry, Abigail.
Listen. Yeah, I'm like, I'm like, we haven't even gotten through anything yet, and I'm like trying to get myself together. Um, and Manny J, I just want to say one, first of all, thank you for your openness and thank you for your acceptance of me and my growth in that moment. And it was something that I realized, like, I told the panel before we got on, like, it was something that I realized before we wrapped up, but like we were wrapping up, and literally, like, I was going to thank the two guests, and I literally looked at Manny J's name and I was like, what was I doing for the last 30 minutes? Like, what what was I doing? And so immediately for me, still learning, and you know, and Manny J and I, we had just talked about it on that panel. Was the first time you and I had a conversation about that. And so, like, to want to be present and to learn, and and help you as you're going on your journey, is it's something that I wanted to do. So I appreciate you and your acceptance of that. And I think it's, as Abigail put it, everybody's on their own journey. And so there's some people, just like I'm from Baltimore, in case you all don't know. So like everything reverts back to the wire in some way. But with Marlo, and it's like my name is my name, like that's a part of this identity journey and that we're talking about today. And for some people that is something that they have to have. They want that piece of it because it's them and it's something that they own. And so it's important for us to talk about that and the meaning there, and what that means there. So I appreciate your acceptance, and I'm glad we were able to have this conversation here. Syreeta and Abigail did what I just couldn't have done. I feel like I want to give them host duties and just just go on about my business. But yeah, and as you all were talking, and as we kind of had this conversation and was going into this, and Mani-Jade, you talked about your journey, your acceptance of these things, and how you were able to do that, and having the right people around, and it's something you're getting used to. And you talked about feeling like you're an imposter. A lot of that may have to do with just the society that we find ourselves in, right? Where we feel like we have to do everything right, even though we're dealing with something that may have always been there, but is new in the ownership of it with you and your journey. And so as we're all living with this, we don't live outside of these boxes called society, and these boxes that society puts us in. And so knowing that as Black people, we're not just all one people, same experiences, same upbringing, same intersections. As a part of this, I'm curious for you all, and again, share as much as you're comfortable sharing. How has your identities and your intersections impacted and influenced your mental health and wellness, or mental health and well-being, in your journey? Has there been any challenges? Has it been, anything that's been uplifting? Like how have these intersections interplayed with your mental well-being?
Let me go on this. Like, I'm really excited because, like, being Black and disabled, I didn't realize for most of my disability journey that I was actually disabled. So it was once I had my first physical disability, like my carpal tunnel and tennis elbow, I had to have a surgery and I couldn't write. So I go to the Office of Students with Disabilities and I see mental health disabilities there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the mental health is a disability? What? I never knew that. But then, like, I reflect back on my mental health journey starting when I was 17. I had the most toxic experiences within mental health. Like being a Black woman and having these mental illnesses, it felt isolating. And like I had no one who really understood and could talk to. And I had one counselor that probably shouldn't have been a counselor tell me that I would never graduate from high school, never go to college, never have a job, never fall in love, end up schizophrenic and mentally dependent on my mom for the rest of my life. I ended up in 2 separate psychiatric units where I was raped. And I apologize for lack of trigger warning. Maybe you can put that trigger warning in for me. But what I was raped in both of these units. I went to staff members to tell them what happened. And they're like, oh, we saw something in your chart that said you were sexually inappropriate. So we don't believe you. So what happened is that this place that's supposed to be safe becomes a symbol of being trapped in a unit with people who don't believe me and with my rapist. And no one even believes any of this ever happened. And I probably could have done something, said something. I had a whole psychiatric group, like my last psychiatric unit stay in 2020 in 2012. Like this, I felt a really bad feeling after that last day. And I'm like, let me just request the records. Psychiatrist writes, this patient is manipulative and gamey. If she ever comes back, admit her to the state psychiatric unit. I'm like, crap. And I'm like, what? No. it was horrific. Even now, like just a couple months ago, like I want a psychiatric medication that helps with both chronic pain, because I also identify as someone living in chronic pain and with major depression. So there's some medications that can do both. Go to these 2 psychiatrists and they're both selling like electroconvulsive shock therapy like it's a used car on the to be sold to me. And one white female therapist is like, white female psychiatrist like, oh no, you'll get red carpet treatment in the hospital, you'll be fine. And then I'm like, look, I'm in a very white area over here. You cannot tell me that I will have red carpet treatment in a psychiatric unit. That's not going to happen. And then the other tells me this story that scars my soul of like, oh, there's this Black woman who's high achieving, but when she needs her ECT treatment, she starts talking in grunts. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? So it's like I've been attacked so much, and I realize it's not just the racism, it's the ableism of seeing someone who looks like me in front of you with a mental health condition and being vulnerable. You lie open to more of these abilities of violence. And if we never say the words ableism, if we never address ableism in what it is, it leaves so many of us without community. And now that I really own who I am in my disabilities, I found such a rich community in Black disabled talk and like disabled Black talk and disability Twitter in itself and disabled in higher ed and of course Black in mental health. And to be able to feel like I can bring my whole self where I've been broken and where I'm healing and where I can help others. And really, it's everything that has almost broken me that's made me want to fix a broken mental health system. So, yeah.
Syreeta, I just want to honor your openness here in sharing that on this. I just want to extend love for you in this moment. Yeah, and I'll turn it back over to anyone who feels comfortable sharing.
Syreeta, bless you. Bless you, baby. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. You just never know someone's journey. Just never know. Never know. With my intersectional identities, with mental health, you know,
Oh no, we lost her.
I
Don't
hope she
worry.
can talk.
Yeah, if she comes back, I will just edit this part out. Whew. It gives me a
Yeah,
second to just catch my emotional stuff.
I'm gonna text her. We lost you.
I
Sure,
know that
yeah.
was probably a heavy share.
There she
But
is. She's back.
If you saw my show yesterday, I was.
I'm back.
Yay, she's back.
I'm back.
hey, welcome back.
I'm not gonna let technology get the rest of me.
I appreciate it. Don't worry.
Thank you. You know, as I was stating, with my intersecting identities, growing up, I grew up in the South, right? And so Southern Baptists, and Black folks sure do love church in the South. So, I was always told to pray about it. I was always told to pray about it. Pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. And I would tell my mother, there are just some things I just can't pray about, because what you guys preached about me and who I am, definitely God would not allow me to be that. And so, I knew I was different from the very beginning. I had a talk, I had a twang, and people would tell me I was gay. That was the identity they would put on me. And I said I wasn't. That I knew I was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was, but I was asked to pray my identity away. And when I took counsel with people supposed to take heavenly, holified counsel, they would tell me the same thing. So I hid myself. I hid myself for a very long time. And moving forward, I actually came to New York City. I began to embrace my identity as such. But when I began to embrace my identity, I acknowledged that there were other identities I had that I wasn't aware of, that I was depressed, that I did suffer from PTSD, that I did suffer from anxiety. Sometimes I don't even like to talk, because when I look at people, I think that I'm so misunderstood that sometimes it stops me in my tracks. When I go into my job, I'm always, anxious, because I want to know, are people seeing me, or are they seeing a perception or narrative of me? So what that does is it adds on extra pressure to be more professional or more feminine, right? I can't escalate my tone. Don't give too much excitement, or you're going to be considered that you're doing too much. Or if you begin to weep with your client, you don't have the ability to emotionally regulate your emotions properly. And so I go to work sometimes and I have to just sit with myself and say, what expectation, what perception, what trauma am I living under that is not allowing me to be with myself? Why can't I be myself? Why can't I cry with my client? Why can't why can't my intonation increase? Why can't I sit like this? Does that make me less feminine? Does it make it true of whatever other people's truths are about me? And so, it impacts me in a way that sometimes it just stops. I just stop and I have to ask myself, what is happening to me? What am I experiencing? The reason why I love being in mental health is because I get to see bits and pieces of myself in other people. I know we call it countertransference. I don't say it's countertransference. I call it the spirit testing the spirit, or acknowledging the spirit in someone else.
Yeah.
Because see, I don't subscribe to these white ideas about therapy. And neither should that be the thing that leads me in my practice. And so again, I'm in a paradox. I'm in a phase that I'm experiencing right now that I'm having to do a lot of unlearning of things, dismantling ideas, and hopefully carrying that spirit and allowing other people to dismantle and learn some things about themselves. You know, being a conduit for those individuals. But for me, it's been a hell of a journey and then some. And so when I hear you all speak, when I hear that you share your experiences, I'm elated because I know I'm not alone. And that's why I'm so thankful.
And absolutely. So, and Mani-Jade, I'm gonna give this to you, but that phrase, and I had to write it down. So hopefully, I hope you don't think I was being rude when I looked away for a second. But when you said, "What trauma am I living under?" I mean, that's powerful when you talking about where people were putting your identity. So dealing with that and dealing with what you knew inside and having that being, attacked consistently, is heavy. Like there's a weight there to it, and you're looking at perceptions, in these weights as a part of it. So I appreciate you. Thank you for being open and willing to share that. I just want to just express my love to you and send that your way. And just acknowledge that. Mani-Jade, I'm gonna toss it to you, and then we'll come back.
Thank you both for leading in such a powerful way. Just everything you say, I want to write down and just think about it for a long time. I'm gonna go through just a few stories. I had flashes as you both were talking. Okay, so Black. So my father's, I first was called the N-word by my father. That was his nickname for me. Right. And so, and then every derivative of that, we're from the island of Puerto Rico. I don't identify as Puerto Rican because to me that's tied up in colonialism and genocide and rape in a way that makes me very uncomfortable. And also I'm so removed from my identities. So I identify as Black, Indigenous, Latinx because I'm trying to understand each identity. Because the indigenous part of me, those people got wiped out completely. I met my great grandmother, and interacted with her, and she speaks to me now. So there's that. The Latinx part of me, because of trauma. If you heard my Story Collider show yesterday, we're going to replay it again on Sunday. The trauma removed Spanish from my life, right? And anyway, I have very little interest in European colonizers and what they think and the way they move through the world. So I feel very removed from that. And so the Black part of me is what I really attach to. And it, I don't have to say anything about that. I mean, it's very fashionable to terrorize Black people still. Right? So I suffer from that all the time. And I'm mischaracterized because of that identity all the time in every single way. I defy all expectations. Right. And so that's just kind of like, it's such a part of my life that when I don't feel that way, like right now, it's almost strange. It's almost strange. Like it's a strange kind of a peace. I love it. I feel great, but I never feel this way. I never feel so comfortable. And so, that bothers me. Okay. So let's go to Two-Spirit. Like I said, there was no chance in hell I could ever even entertain the idea that I'm gonna add to this, and I haven't really talked about this at all. There's evidence on my body of surgery at a very young age, changing how I was physically born in ways that I will never probably understand. I got some bullshit stories from my parents that don't match up to the way my body is made. And And so, you know, I have pain all the time to deal with that I had just kind of, until very recently with Angelina, just, you know, been able to say like, you know, I'm in pain all the time in certain places, and there's discomfort, and, you know, there's a feeling of like knowing. So you grow up and you know, but then you don't know because you don't have language for it. Right. So, you know, one of my favorite stories. So I get this bike, you know, my dad buys me this black boy's bike. And I go and I sand it down. I'm a pretty handy person. And I paint it lavender. Because Jade wanted a fucking bike, man. I don't know what else to say. You know, I didn't know that, but like it had to happen. Right. And the good thing is, you know, Manny's always been big. So I kicked a lot of ass that year because of that lavender bike. But I had to have it. I had to have it. And, you know, it might sound like a small thing, the color of a bike, but it's not. But it's not, because, you know, that was a place of joy for me. That was a place of joy. I suffered a lot, you know, surprisingly, and it's always hurt me, even in my last close relationship, from cis hetero women telling me I acted like a gay person because I didn't sexually harass them, because I didn't force myself on them, because I didn't act like a Latino man who's, you know, comes onto a woman too strong. And I'm like, I thought you didn't want that. I thought that was wrong. Why do you want me to do that? Why do you want me to fit into a role that, you know, I did my homework. That's not appropriate. I'm not doing that. So, you know, but even in my last relationship is, you know, making fun of me about that. Like, you got no game. I'm like, I got game. I got fucking game. I don't sexually harass women. See, there's a difference. Between those two things, right? So, and then disability. I would not have gotten through undergrad because of the trauma of being a Jehovah's Witness, in particular surrounding sex, and, you know, not really being able to be comfortable with my sexuality and what I like, and what is, to be frank, what is natural. Like, you know, you can't have sex before you're married. Okay. You can't masturbate. You can't think about sex. So what the fuck am I supposed to do? Right? I got married when I was 23 years old as a virgin, and it was the worst wedding night imaginable because I didn't know anything. I had no experience. This poor woman didn't know anything. You know, and then I have all this stuff that I'm just telling you about now and coming to terms with now. I was 23 years old. I wasn't ready to get married, you know, and then I'm married. It's like, I just wanted to kind of have sex. I didn't want to get married.
Yeah.
Right. So, and because of that relationship, me being unable to follow the rules, there was a day where she looked at me and said, you know, you disgust me. And something happened to me. So I heard a crack, my soul cracked. Maybe you've heard this before. And I started doing this. I started shaking. And it got so bad that I was put on medication for Parkinson's and epilepsy for years, because I used to have seizures every time I got a little bit emotional. The fact that I'm sitting here talking about such fucking deep shit is like a miracle, because if you said I had an exam, for example, so I left Jehovah's Witnesses, I went to college, I'm 33 years old, and I lived in the accommodations office for disabled people because I couldn't sit through class. I'd sit on my hands and just, because the stress, you know. And then during an exam, I needed more than double time, because I would spend hours just like having a seizure because of the anxiety over testing. And then I could pull myself together and have a test. So I would have failed. And I remember sitting with many, many people and being like, seriously, like, you're not going to work with me here. You know, well, if I have to accommodate you, you know that I have to accommodate everyone. We'll fucking accommodate them. What's wrong with that?
Right.
Like, that would mean you're not an asshole. What's your problem? You know, so I would make sure that they would remember. Remember, when you're grading me, I want you to remember my name. I want you to remember my face. You know what I overcame to get here? You know, I'm a single father. I'm an ex-cult member. I'm disabled. I'm shivering in front of you, and you're going to fail me? you're seriously gonna fail me because you don't want to help other people? Like, so you remember my face when you go grade your papers. And you know what? I got all A's. I graduated magna cum laude. So fuck them. And now I'm getting my PhD. But you know, that stuff hurts. That stuff sticks with you.
Yes.
It makes you twitchy. And it makes you a liar. That's what happened to me. I started lying in all of my close relationships out of self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
I finally get to my current partner, Angelina. I'm lying to her about all kinds of stuff. It's such a like you don't have to put any effort. It becomes like an instinct. Like your first reaction is to lie, and then it's taken a lot of work with her to be like, why the fuck am I lying? Like, she wants to know me. She, you know, and one of the latest things she said was, you know, if you respond for me, how will you ever know me? And how will I ever know you? Right? And so, you know, you get forced. When you're forced to not be yourself, the way Abigail so beautifully stated, then you have to lie, and then you're a professional liar. Who the fuck wants to live as a liar their whole life? You know, and so it's taken me a lot of work and a lot of pain, and a lot of cursing apparently to
Safe space. You're good.
dropping F-bombs. Yeah. I mean, to be real. I just want to be real. And now, you know, like what Abigail was talking about, I feel like I barely am starting to actually just really be myself. And I'm 48. That's too late. It's too late. So there's this tremendous grief, you know, interlaced with that, where I'm just like, what have I done? And then, you know, really, and then it feels so good to be open that immediately you're just struck with grief over all of that time that you spent not being that way. You know, I have to say, I celebrate the times I fought back. I celebrate that lavender bike. I'm so happy. I knew I was gonna have to whoop some ass, and I did. You know, but that's not a life. It's not a life. That's not a real life. That's a partial life. You know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the suffering has been immeasurable, I think.
Mani-Jade, I just, you know, also want to extend that to you, and you know, and you know, also some, you know, thankfulness and gratitude to you as well, that you feel that this space is a space where you can be comfortable and to talk about these things, and to, you know, to make a statement here to say, I don't really tell anybody this, and then have this space be the space where you can do that. I receive that, and I appreciate that immensely, in this moment. And I mean, so much to unpack, and with you all each in different journeys, talking about a lot of the interpersonal things in play, a lot of some of the, you know, communities don't have to just be like a town, but communities of, you know, your faith, or, you know, your friend circle, your relationships, and things like that. You know, your schooling, your school community, you know, as well. And as we all know, when we look at medical trauma, the medical community, with us as individuals or part of the diaspora, is already really as bad as it can be. When we talk about maternal and child health, when we talk about mental health, when we talk about you know, even Syreeta, going into your experiences, you know, in the psych wards, and again with, you know, physical pain, and how we're not, you know, seen that way. I could imagine, you know, with some of your intersections, there may be some experiences in, you know, with medical trauma as well. And so, you know, if you all want to tap into that, I'll definitely.
I am down for this, because I really think that medical trauma is this emotional weight we don't talk enough about in being Black and being disabled and living with chronic pain, because we all deserve so much better. We've always deserved better, but this is just an opportunity to really call for change and shed that light because living in chronic pain, it takes a lot until like the pain escalates to like where I'm like I feel like at the edge of death or something to go to the ER. Because if
Mhm.
I go to the ER in chronic pain, like there's a lot of times when my Apple Watch will be like, your heart, like if your heart is racing and you're feeling like lightheaded, faint, short of breath, you should go to the ER. And I'm like, haha, screw you, like dismiss. Because then I might be seen as a drug seeker. I might not receive the help I
Mhm.
need anyway, and I might receive harm in itself. Like I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis when I was 18. Like I've had this diagnosis for like almost like over a decade now, and it took one group here at in this neurology group here in California to strip that diagnosis and to go through a 2-hour traumatic experience where like I'm like I don't think I'll be able to walk out of this. The doctor's like, oh, you'll be fine. Like, and there's a point where they're jabbing like this electric probe into the back of my knee, and I'm like, is there pain medication for this? Can you help me leave? It's like, no, there's none of that. And then there's another point when the supervising doctor's there and she's patting me on my head. It's like, you're doing such a great job. And I'm like, if I was not in a 10 out of 10 pain and brain fog right now, I'd say something. But like, I'm just laying there and like, what the fudge is this? Am I dying? Like, why is this doctor petting me on the head? Am I a dog? Have I transformed to a dog? Quick, am I a dog? No, it's not my natural language. And then what made it all worse was at the end, like the last needle spot, like on my hip, they had to get a deeper needle to like stimulate a nerve or something. They just pull up the side of my underwear and like, okay, we're done. They walk out. It's 2 hours later. It's like towards the end of the day, and I'm laying there in this fog, and I'm like, something's wet. Oh wait, I'm bleeding. And they've left me by
Wow.
myself to deal with it. I have to find where they keep alcohol, where they keep band-aids, and I do that, and then I like kind of wait a few minutes, and then I go out in the hallway, and you know that sound when you open a door and you enter a space and you know you're completely alone? That vibe. So the whole office is gone. Doctors, receptionists, doors that are open are now closed, and I've been abandoned like completely. And there's a weight of knowing that, like, if like there's this fear now with neurologists of even trying to find another one to get my diagnosis back, to get a doctor that would be able to prescribe my medication for my muscles, to be able to do that because only neurologists can.
Mhm.
And I changed my whole PhD journey and my post back because I just graduated from UCSD in human health psychology, and I really wanted to go like NIH, like do a post back or get into my grad school. I had like 7 schools I planned on applying to. The PTSD interacted with that moment so deeply, and the fibromyalgia was going crazy after that. I only applied to 2 schools. The applications weren't up to my normal caliber, and I know it was a situation that why I don't have prospects, why I'm scared to leave the area. And medical trauma can change entire trajectories. It can change how we
Mhm.
interact with our medical teams, how we choose to move throughout our journeys, our careers. And medical trauma is empowered by this ableism within medical systems that are supposed to be helping us, that end up harming us. And they won't even address it. They'll address like racism. Let's get more Black people in medicine, more Indigenous people in
Mhm.
medicine. I'm also Indigenous as well. I identify from a non-federally recognized tribe, so that's also an identity I'm working on. But there's so many identities that medicine will be like, okay, I'm willing to accept this, we're willing to accept that. But to say that they're ableist is almost like, oh no, this is a line that we refuse to say, because then it says that the first law is wrong. Like that Hippocratic oath is invalid of first do no harm, because ableism first does harm. It does
Mhm.
emotional harm. It does physical harm. It can kill us in cases like we've seen throughout the COVID situation. Ableism
Right.
kills us as Black people, and no one really says it, addresses it, and really seeks to transform it because we don't see the word. We will say that there's health inequities within being Black. There's this grief that goes along with being disabled as well. Like when you're diagnosed, like later in life, like my chronic pain started like 6 years ago, but I still have that abled ghost that lives with me that remembers a life
Mhm.
I woke up and I did not have to think about how many spoons I had to go about my day. Like spoon theory. It's amazing. It's like not having complete energy to do all you want and having to live within the limits where your body has given you. And it's just a grief that is not supported. And that's also something I'm passionate about changing, that mental health within disability is something that's valid too. It doesn't need a diagnosis formally, but to be able to process through that. Like if a loved one of ours dies, like bereavement support, Johnny on the spot, it's right there. If our non-disabled self dies, no one cares. They're dead. They're rotting in a space in our mind and we don't know what happened to them. And that internalized ableism is almost like with that abled ghost. And it's like, what do we do now? What do we do now that we're living in a body that doesn't function like we're used to? We've lost something that's important to us, but what have we gained? Like in my disabilities, like there is this amazing hashtag called My Disabilities Made Me Good At. And my ADHD makes me good at being creative. My PTSD makes me good at being aware of my surroundings in new areas. My fibromyalgia, for better or for worse, will let me know when I am reaching the wall of no return and says you should slow down. So, in every one of my disabilities, as I've developed my disability identity, I've really found the good within my disabilities and the spaces where we can coexist in peace. And I think that has helped me the most through my own grief in changing who I am and accepting my disabilities and really embracing them.
And again, I appreciate your openness and even that like what you said, talking about the mental health piece of that, and having what you said, internalized ableism. Like I literally wrote that down, and thinking about your the part of you that is essentially like still there, that remembers how to do we're doing things differently, we're able to do things differently. That's not something that I had ever thought of, like that aspect of it. And then encountering that along top of experiencing the medical trauma, again, it has to be weighty. And so that internalized ableism, again, I got so much notes over here, but it's just like learning that piece of it, and that being a part of your journey is definitely something I think that's going to stick with me for sure. Abigail, I know did you want to chime in with this?
So yeah, Mani-Jade was sharing their story, and I'm able to relate, because there is another identity that I hold that I don't usually talk about, because I feel that it can be very confusing to people. But I do have an intersex endocrine condition that I've had since I was very, very young, where my body was already feminizing in a way that people did not understand. And so, my mother would take me to the doctor all of the time. And when I was younger, I presented as a larger person. So we would go to this adolescent pediatrician, and they would always share with my mom that when I lost weight, my genitalia would get bigger. That's what they told my mom from the age of, right? From the age of 8 to 21.
Wow.
That's what they told my mom. And then on top of that, the constant pain I was in my abdomen area, and I had the worst kidney stones. And I never forgot, I think it was 22. They kind of did like this sonogram on my abdomen area. And they were saying, there's just some weird parts up in here that is so very different. And speaking to my mom, she's not that, she doesn't understand the terminology.
Right,
So she's just like, they said there's this huge circle inside of you, and that's all I know. And I said, well, do you know anything else, Mama? And she was like, no, I don't. And I was like, well, hell, if you don't know, I don't know. Right. And
Right.
so, again, it's something about the East Coast that just does it for me. When I get to NYC, you know, I started on my trajectory of hormone therapy. And, you know, I had some pre-tests done, and it was showing from what my hormones looked like prior to taking any estradiol in my system, they were already showing a high significance of estrogen and a very low significance of testosterone, right? That's not indicative of someone being identified as male or female, but I'm just showing you that for the medical world, that was a very different task for someone who didn't start HRT. So I set on my personal journey of having a test that would help me identify if I had some, you know, intersex traits of or anything like that. And I had a karyotype test looking at me genetically. Don't you know that they lost my blood work when I had it done? And then on top of that, when I got the blood work done a second time, the endocrinologist was like, yeah, you a man. I don't know what else to tell you. That's what was told to me.
Wow.
I was a man. So I was like, okay, great. So can you show me where the test is so I can have that for my records? Don't you know I have never received the records? And when I called back up in there to check on the records, they have no history of me ever having a karyotype done on me. So when we talk about medical trauma, can we talk about gaps, failures, disbelief, right? Not just racism, but being blatant out, dehumanizing.
Yes.
I have seen people suffer. I've seen communities of color suffer, right? The Tuskegee experiment wasn't that long ago.
Absolutely.
Black and brown people have died in emergency rooms seeking service. They've died in a waiting room seeking medical attention. And that wasn't that long ago. You know how many people died of COVID in an emergency room that were Black and brown people? That was last year.
Absolutely.
I digress.
The dehumanizing, when you said that, like that resonated so much, and that's something that we've had to you know, deal with, you know, even in the single identity of just being African American, not even delving deeper, you know, into that. And you know, I can see about not, you know, when you're on this journey and you go and, you know, you get this test, want this information, and to just have it reduced in that second, in that moment, to just a sentence of, you know, you're a man, I don't know what else to tell you. Like I couldn't imagine that, and then just not to receive any, you know, anything in that moment is dehumanizing, and it's something that we have continued to deal with, you know, very literally not being seen as a full human to being treated that way consistently. Again, this, you all, and just the energy in this conversation is amazing. So I appreciate you going into that. I didn't know, Mani-Jade, if you had anything you wanted to add with this piece.
Abigail, you are my guardian angel. I swear. I just was telling my partner that I'm afraid to go get tested for intersex evidence because I don't want to be devastated by bullshit. I don't want to be devastated by bullshit. And to hear you say that, I didn't even want to say intersex. I'm afraid to say it. I'm afraid to claim it. I'm confused as hell. All I know is that my body has scars. So what the fuck? I wasn't born like that. You know, and I got stories that don't add up. And I have another story that you reminded me of, Abigail, when you were telling your story. When I was 12, I got in a car accident with my mother, and I was taken to the hospital. And when I wasn't knocked out, but you know, they had to examine me. They thought I was a girl. I had such developed breasts that they thought I was a girl. I like breasts. I was like, okay, good. Shit. But they hurt, like they hurt. It wasn't comfortable. And the doctor did give me something to take. I thought it was a placebo or penicillin or something. It was a pink pill. And he said, this will get rid of them. And it did. So Abigail's pointing at me like she might know something, but I didn't even think about the fact that maybe they put my ass on hormones. I don't know. I mean, it like I said before, there was no way in hell that a boy was going to walk around with breasts as a Jehovah's Witness. But they were, the doctors, I remember very clearly being confused that the doctors kept calling me she and her.
Wow.
And not being like, you didn't do the full exam. Yes, you would have found out. But, just, wow, that's all I can say. And also, Abigail, thank you.
This has been an amazing conversation. I want to in earlier, I can't remember who said it. You all talked about, I think it may have been all of you, in some way have talked about like the owning this journey, having this journey, being on this journey, a journey that you're still going on, and as it may have been challenging and tough and difficult, you all mentioned something around community, each in different ways, but you all talked about community, and you all talked about being in community now, connecting with people now, understanding that you're not alone, and getting to this space where you're engaging in community. So I want to pick up there and ask you all, what in dealing with this, and still being in your journey, dealing with interpersonal BS, medical BS, societal BS, all of these things together, you found community. So how have you, when you found your community, how have you used your experience to help others? Each of you all are in similar lanes around mental health, but doing different pieces of it. I think we got like 3 different directions on this. So I just want to know from your perspective, how has that informed, the work that you all do, being in mental health, being a part of these intersections, and then now being a part of a community where you share those. How has that informed the work that you all do, and the efforts that you all have? And you can feel free to go into your effort. We would love to promote and all that stuff as well. Mani-Jade, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, a few things. One is that I am live demonstrating my attempt to build the community that I need to feel safe in this world and to heal. This is a deliberate, very thought out by me act to do this, to invite the right people to the right place, to have the right conversation. Because about a year or so ago, and I'll tell you the backstory on that, but I decided that it was too hard for me to do all of this by myself, that I was putting all of this pressure on myself to heal from things that I don't even understand. And like right in front of everyone right now, you can see how I'm reacting. I'm like, wow, yes. See, I need Abigail in my life. I need Syreeta in my life. I need Brandon in my life, because why should I do this alone? Why have I bought into this myth of white supremacy, of individualism, that we don't need each other, that we're not interdependent, that we don't need to be in community? That is our natural state. That is the way we've always healed. And so I'm trying to go back to that, and I'm deliberately doing things like Black Mental Health Week, reaching out to people, reaching out to networks. And I'm gonna go back to a year ago. What happened was I started working at a clinic called Genesee Valley Psychology in Rochester, where I am, visiting these lovely people, including a therapist, Julia, who's like one of the kindest people that I interacted with as a clinician. Imagine coming out in a meeting of like pretty, you know, like very kind people, but pretty serious. It's a serious place that does serious work. And here I am with all this trauma, and you know, a lot of them are white. Most of them are white, and here I am, you know, in this meeting talking about a white male client who's very homophobic, transphobic, phobic of everything, and has violent feelings towards these people. And me trying to explain why I'm struggling with doing this addressing framework. Addressing is where you go through your different identities and identify them. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but you know, I didn't want to do it with him. And so my team of really supportive people is trying to help me navigate why I don't want to do this. And I keep evading the question until finally I'm like, it's because I don't want to say it in front of him and have him say things to me that are going to hurt me and give me a bad impression of this person. And then I have to work with a person that I genuinely care about and still care about. But doing that, you know, like a minute before this supervision ends, and then the supervisor being like, okay, we got to go now, you know, but like this clinician, Julia, you know, right away is just like texting me like, oh my God, wow, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, we love you, this. And that support that she showed and other people in that clinic helped me realize it didn't matter that they were white. It didn't matter that they didn't share the identity I shared. All that mattered is that they saw me and they took me for who I was, and they adapted as I adapted, and I felt safe and loved and held. They didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to be perfect. And that's what it's about. That's how we change the world. That's our hope. Our hope is that we can get through this stuff together. We can figure it out together. And so I'm actively in the process right now. Black in Mental Health. I do work with Genesee Valley Psychology, Psyching Out. We're doing a series, Navigating Academia with Purpose. Same goal. Let's just build a community of people in this horrible place that we call academia, and let's get through it together. You know, let's not put up with the abuse anymore. Let's not walk around believing that their purpose is our purpose, because it's not my purpose. It's not my purpose to dominate others, to separate myself from others, to act like I'm better than others, to hold knowledge as if it belongs to me, right? And to be better than, that's not my purpose. It's antithetical to the core of who I am. Abusing people just because a few of us got tenure, no. No, that is not a trade I'm willing to make. And so I needed to find other people like me, or I wasn't going to be able to get through. And I decided that I was going to get through, because if it isn't clear already, as you know more about me, the only way to get me to stop is to fucking kill me. And that's not very easy, because people have tried. So while I'm here, I'm going to do what I need to do. And I'm going to do it with as many people that want to do it with me as possible. And then you're going to have to fight all of us. You're going to have to kill all of us. And that's not going to happen. So I'm very much in the process of building community. This is a testimony today of what happens when you're just like, let's do this. Let's do it together. So.
Well, we're with you.
I feel it. Right. Y'all dope, man. Like, y'all family now. That's it. You stuck with me.
And you're each my family too. And you are stuck with me for better or for worse. Abigail wants to connect to.
Yep. So, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm so grateful for being in this place where I'm willing to embrace community, because when my mental illness started, I was always the one to hide behind a smile. I was okay if everyone else was okay. And I kept that shield, because a person's not going to be like, are you okay, if that person looks okay, if they're smiling, if they look fine. So I used it as a shield to keep people away, and I wouldn't share my truth, my experiences. And I found myself feeling more whole in being able to share the totality of who I am and bringing it into my career, where I feel like I could be really fulfilled in transforming the mental health field. And a lot of the things I do on Twitter are about amplifying disability. With disability in higher ed, we're just getting started to launch our Disabled Empowerment in Higher Education month in October. Super stoked about that. And also, I work with Voices of Academia as well. So we're always looking for more diverse voices. So that's something that's I've been really proud to do. And APHA Disability is having their first Twitter conference because I threw out the idea of let's bring together early career researchers and let's learn about what disability looks like in public health, not just disability as something that's happened or conditions that we have, whether mental or physical, but disability as a community that needs to be focused on throughout many areas of public health. And I think the more we can talk about disability openly as a Black community, the better. It's been amazing to be a part of Black and X conference and be able to arrange things with them, to be a part of Black in mental health, Black in neuro, Black in public health. So it is a lot about serving, but something that I'm still working on with myself is being willing to serve and to care and to love on myself just as much as I am for others. I'm always so willing to go out of my way to help others. And then when it comes to asking for help for myself, like talking to Mani-Jade about it as well, and all the things that have happened with recently losing my job, moving into an apartment the same day to have it broken into, and needing like 4 cops and a police dog to get out the homeless woman that was sleeping in my apartment. It's harder to really be there for yourself, but in the midst of embracing community is the importance of communing with yourself and owning your truth, whatever it looks like, however it evolves, and allowing yourself to hold a safe and healthy space for yourself too, and to love yourself along the way, no matter what it looks like.
That's such an awesome message. Such an awesome message. Abigail.
Y'all both better go on head now, okay? Yes. Come on, people. Come on, do it for the people. You know, I would have never imagined that I would just be here doing the work. If someone told me that I was going to be a clinician, I probably would have laughed in their face. But I'm glad I did laugh in their face, and I'm glad that I listened to the spirit within myself. I've been very fortunate. I'm currently working for a private mental health firm in NYC called NICAP, which stands for New York City Affirmative Psychotherapy. I work remotely, so I'm actually in the Western New York region. Mani-Jade, I'm your neighbor in Buffalo, if you didn't know. But right now, I'm like in this phase of just like really learning myself as a clinician and developing the skills. And another thing is my visibility to the work. Most people will not get to meet a Black trans woman that is a psychotherapist. And so when they get to come into a queer organization of color and they get to see someone like me, it just has a different feeling. It has a different space. Like when trans folks get to see a trans clinician and one that's Black and that can identify with them, they like, oh my goodness. And so I just like just being in existence and visibility it just speaks volumes, and it informs my work that it's just hard to put words to, because there's nothing like having someone that shares the lived experience sitting in front of you, and that's just sharing space and solidarity. And also, I have a different venture because I want to create my own private practice that's specifically geared towards trans folks of color. I'm also in the process of going to nursing school to get my LPN license. So I want to have more of a holistic practice. I'm currently on the board of an LGBT youth organization in Western New York called GLIS. Where we are in the process of developing wraparound services for transgender, non-binary, and gendered expansive identities so that they can streamline their health care,
Wow.
their mental health journey, their transitional journeys a lot easier. So right now, I'm just trying to be a conduit to the community in any way I can, learning my craft and taking time to just bask in myself and my identity and realizing that it is not a curse, it's not bad, it's a blessing, and I get to share it.
This is this is so awesome. And it's indicative of us throughout the diaspora. Even when we're going through our own journey, we haven't quite figured out us, where we're going, what we're going to do. We can pull while we're pushing, right? And that's always been a piece of that. While we're trying to get through, bringing somebody else with this is is powerful. Um, so last thing before I'm like trying to hold all this stuff. So last thing I'm gonna ask of you all, um, just leave us with something. If it's a resource, you can leave a resource. I definitely want to um make sure I get information about Gliss. I'm gonna put that in the description of this video for sure. Um, but whether it's a resource, whether it's a piece of your journey, an encouraging word for someone who may identify with one of your identities watching this, um, who may have not been able to see themselves until maybe this video. If there is anything that you want to leave this space with, anything that you is on your heart that you haven't gotten a chance to say, um, if you could do that, and then at the end of it, just give people a way to get connected to you, whether it's social, whether it's website, what have you, and we'll leave this space like that.
I think we missed this space. This space was nice. But I think something that is really important that I just want to leave behind in this space is that you are never have to be enough. You don't have to be disabled enough. You don't have to be bi enough. You just have to be yourself. You don't have to measure up to anyone else. Live your truth, own your truth, and along the way, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Twitter at Nolan_Syreeta, and also Disabled in Higher Ed is an amazing community. You can find us at Dis in Higher Ed on Twitter, and also Disabled in Higher Ed.weebly.com. So we are online as well, so you can see our past event, our upcoming events, and really just always be open to your own journey and asking for help. It's sometimes one of the hardest things to ask for help, but it's one of the most rewarding things, especially being disabled, because our bodies will sometimes betray us, our minds will sometimes betray us. But if we find the right community, the right support, hopefully they will not betray us and we can be there together and support each other along our journey, because the journeys are even better when they're shared and we grow together. So I look forward to seeing what your journey looks like, and it won't look like any of our journeys, and I think that is perfect because it's your fingerprint on your journey that says it's you, because you are beautiful, you are amazing, and you are powerful, and you have the right to hold space always, every time, anywhere. Hold that space and be proud to be yourself.
Thank you. Abigail, Mani-Jade, either one of you.
So yes, I just want to leave this intention that we were all created and developed for such a time as this. And when I say such a time as this, it is your time. your time. Whatever that is, whenever that is, when you want it to be, you were developed for your own particular time. One of the greatest lies that I've heard people tell is that we don't deserve to be loved. And everyone on this planet deserves to be loved and appreciated. And in saying that intention, there is nothing that you cannot do. If you don't hear anyone else tell you anything else, I love you. I see you all. I'm thankful for you coming here. I'm thankful for your existence. I'm thankful for your visibility. I'm thankful for your challenges. I'm thankful for your anger. I'm thankful for your joy. I'm thankful for you. You are the greatest gift that this world will ever have. Please bask in it. For people that want to stay connected, email me. My email is May, like in the month, May 050782@gmail.com. I'll say it again for the people in the back row. May, May 050782@gmail.com. Email me. I'll be waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail and Mani-Jade.
I'll start with how to contact me. So manigarcia.com. I made my website before I was Mani-Jade, so I'm keeping it. Mani Garcia, GARCIA.com. You can find me at Instagram and on Twitter at Mani-Jade Garcia. blackandmentalhealth.com. We just launched our website, so please log on and check us out. That's why we're having this discussion right now, because it's Black and Mental Health Week. And on Twitter and on Instagram, it's at BlackN, M as in mental, H as in health. Those are the best ways to contact me. There's contact forms on both, and I get those emails from both. So if you want to contact me, please. The only thing I can add to what Abigail said is I believe you. I believe you. So if you need to talk, if you need to tell me what's going on, I'm not going to gaslight you. I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm not going to ask for evidence. I'm going to be curious and accepting. And that's what I do. That's what I'm here for. And I'm not the only one. There are other people like us. So there's that part. The other part, so when you were thinking of like, what do we say? I did a joyful healing space at the Black and X conference, and I actually wrote a little mantra song. And I want to just read through the lyrics with you, because it's something that after I wrote it, I was like, there's something to this. So it's the lyrics are, it's been on my mind how to make it free. So it's been on my mind how to make it free. Used to leave it up to chance, was mistaken. Used to leave it up to chance, was mistaken. Now I see the light buried deep within, a remembering. Now I see the light buried deep within, a remembering, yeah. And the rest is about joy is freedom. Joy is freedom. Oh, joy is freedom. So remember. And it ends with a
So we've come to the end of this conversation. This has been an incredibly beautiful space that we've had the honor and the privilege to navigate together this evening. You put these things together, Mani-Jade approached me and said this is something that they wanted to do. And, you know, I was, of course, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's do it. But every time you put one of these together, you never quite know where it's going to go, where the conversation is going to go. And I couldn't have imagined this in this space. Like, I've literally had to like pull in tears multiple times during this conversation just because of the emotional sharing and bonding that was taking place so naturally and fluidly. And I just want to express my sincere gratitude to each of you, Mani-Jade, Syreeta, Abigail. You all are a part of a family at this point now. You're stuck with me too, so you know we'll just have to navigate that. But I can't even, like, I'm trying to even find a way to navigate the words and I can't. But you know, the gratitude is immense. I'm so thankful for each of you and what you all bring to this world, because it's so needed. Each of you in all that you do. And so again, thank you. All this links and information will be put up with the video. And again, thank you all so much. And for those of you who went on this journey with us, thank you. And I hope that you were able to see part of yourself, or, you know, as one of the speakers said, your whole self in this conversation today. Thank you all. And the Black Mental Wellness Lounge will be back.